You're an energy drink guy. You're not a coffee guy.
No, I don't. I've never drank coffee in my life. I think I might have had it one time when I was little. My dad gave it to me straight black, and now it just threw me off. And I got a lot of staff. My assistants, they drink coffee. We got the Keurig right outside, but we also drink a lot of energy drinks too. I was on Bang for a while. They probably should have. We probably should have been their sponsor. They probably should have sponsored us. But last season, but 5 hour little, there's all kind of those things that you can take and so on to get you through the day. We work those long hours and shoot, man, gotta do something. My wife's always telling me, stay away from the 5 hours, you're gonna have a heart attack. But
Yeah,
man, it's bad.
yeah, yeah. College football, man. Like especially JC, the hours are no joke. Like you guys are, and it's so different because you don't have the same kids every year,
Nah,
but
yeah.
it's the
We
same amount of work, if not more, probably because of that, huh?
Yeah, and we're different because we have our kids all day long, basically. Like they go to class, don't get me wrong, but like, they'll be in class, maybe majority take maybe 2 classes a day, you know, and sometimes, one group might have three, but we see them all day long because we practice in the morning. So we have them from 6:30 all the way to about 8 or 9, depending on the day and night. And just because I have so many coaches that live on campus, and I live right down the street, literally, it's like, it's open door policy, and they're always around, coming in, watching film, coming in, just kind of like hanging out or doing something, plus small campus. So you see them in the cafeteria, and, so outside of meetings in the field and the weight room and study hall and all, shoot, we're always seeing them. They're like my kids. My kids are grown. They're back in California. So I just inherited 120 kids. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's jump into some fun stuff, man. I want to
Okay.
start with you kind of transitioned with last year was your first year as the head guy, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. I took
And
over for Coach Brown like February 2019.
so 2-8 to 8-2, which that's a story for JC because a lot of the times you can ebb and flow based on talent and who you're playing, and there's a lot of uh, back and forth in terms of the best teams. But what was it like going from a long time O line dude to now taking over a program that, let's be honest, is really well known now in terms of you know what you have experienced? I know you're like, hey man, I've done a bunch of interviews. Everyone wants me to like drop a bomb about Last Chance U or get some,
Yeah, no.
some
Go ahead,
some
shoot. Yeah,
headline or something.
yeah,
But
just go ahead. I don't care. Go ahead.
I guess what I'm kind of wondering, because I love the show, like, and I know that there's every documentary's spinning a story, right? And I sure as heck wouldn't want someone to follow me around and see my entire life because I ain't perfect. But
No doubt.
there's a lot of good that's probably come out of it, for people around it. Like
Yeah.
exposure can be good. So for yourself, like what is maybe the greatest lesson that you've learned from that experience to where you are now?
I think, coming from, I was California JUCO before I got
Yeah.
out here.
Chafee and for a while, right?
Yeah, College of the Desert, and just many years, and just kind of coming out here and just kind of getting a different side of scholarship junior college in a different part of the country, and it's just a beautiful thing. And then stepping in at the same time when Last Chance U came to field in the first season, and just kind of reap all the benefits. There are benefits, believe it or not, that Last Chance U brings to the table. And I think
Yeah.
my wife teases me all the time and so on like that, because you know Independence is a great town, and I'm just out and about all the dang time. I just wear a t-shirt and shorts and my Crocs, and I go to Walmart, or it don't matter. But if I go to Oklahoma, if I go somewhere else, and just people come up, can I take a picture? And it used to be real bad with JB. I go somewhere with him, that dude, they get stopped every 2 seconds. But you know, and I think just kind of, seeing kind of what the exposure brings to you all over the country, and just kind of admiring just the love of the game of football that a lot of people have, because you got fans of Last Chance U and fans of junior college football. And I think what Last Chance U did at junior college football was so amazing, as far as, coming from, a good California JUCO system, then coming out here to the Jayhawk, and what they're doing as far as exposure for every JUCO program, and every JUCO conference, I believe, is helping us out. Because, you probably heard, we lost the Arizona schools, and, a few other schools is folded. And, that's something that, us as coaches, we don't like to see happen. And so I think, Greg Whiteley, he's a great dude, man. That's my guy right there. And I think him and the staff did an outstanding job as far as just helping, Independence was always known as being in the Jayhawk and so on, but kind of helping us put it on the map. Now I can go into a school in Alabama, I can go to school in Texas, I can go to school in Detroit or Maryland or even California, and I step in on campus and be like, "Oh, coach, you were our last chance. I was like, "Hey, you want to come to Independence? I got a scholarship for you." So it's kind of like it helps us out. I'm not gonna lie, but it gave the perks. I like to smile at the perks we had. Now some of those perks are gone because now the TV show is gone at the same time.
Yeah.
But you still got to put Independence on the map.
Yeah, I remember being at AFC in San Antonio last year. Our company was there. We had a booth, and obviously a lot of big time coaches. And I remember you guys rolling through. I remember recognizing your face in the crowd, like, "Oh yeah, that's the dude who was on Last Chance U." Which it's got you got notoriety and you're famous in the football circles now, which is interesting. But I guess in terms of one of the things that we had talked about earlier this week when we connected was this massive conversation going on around the country about race and racial reconciliation and the tensions that are still super, super apparent. We, in the last month, have seen a lot of hard things happen, a lot of terrible things happen. And even us as a company, like the whole silence is violence thing affected us, like where we realized, and I realized in my role, like we need to address this. Like we need to talk about this and not just address it. Like we need to like be a part of a good change. And when you lead a football program, I play football, I coach football, it's a diverse locker room. It doesn't feel, and obviously I come from the white experience, but it didn't feel for me like a super strong tension. But as I look back now in the rearview mirror, I realized, oh, there were things going on there that probably wasn't correct. So the question is this, because we can talk about a lot of different aspects of it, right?
Yeah.
Your kids are going to come back in 2 or 3 weeks. And I know you're talking to some of them right now, but what do you plan on communicating to your players? Like your African-American players, your white players, you're in the Midwest, which is another, thing, because it's a different culture than where we're at in the Bay Area. But do you have an idea on like how you're going to lead your program or talk to them during that time? And I know that's a killer question, but what are you thinking?
I'm actually glad that you asked me, because this is something that kind of keeps me up a little bit at night, and just kind of thinking about it. And I kind of been going back and forth, and I can honestly say, man, like coming in, being brought up and born and raised Southern California, and coming out to the Midwest and just recruiting the South, and some of the stuff, I'm not going to say there's racism all over the country. That's just something that is a fact, but there is a different form of thinking as far as being out here in the Midwest and the South, and some people might take offense to that. But just me being on the recruiting road, and just being on the road recruiting, just interacting with my players and with their family members, and the questions that the parents ask, and just to kind of see the emotions of the different kids and how they act, and so on, about the different situations is something that was different for me. But what I think is, of course, we're going to talk about it. We talk about a lot of different things, and we got to kind of be open with it and so on. I don't know how much I'll actually harp on it and continue it. I'm not saying we're going to have a 2-day conference on it or anything. I think the biggest thing is, me and my staff are going to continue to do what we do, and that's, we be as real as we possibly can with these guys. We want to be good role models, good leaders, and and my staff ranges from 23 all the way up to 53. And so, and I kind of sit up there at the top, and basically, like I tell them, is, honesty is about everything. And I think I have a great staff, and we're honest with our kids, and our kids are honest with us. And we have to have some kind of awareness, because all honestly, they can teach me stuff that I'm not aware about. And I'm not saying I went to college in Montana, and it was a different situation. And I experienced a few things, but, and growing up in Southern California, with my kids from the South and just me being on the road in the South, I've kind of experienced a few other things. And so with all that, we can kind of like collab and kind of sit there, but I'm basically want to just continue doing what we're doing, like on David Everyday Circle, and basically just trying to be honest with them and just tell them that, man, my honest opinion, and kids respect honesty just like we respect honesty. And I'm going to tell them, like, we want racism to end, but I actually, in my lifetime, and I'm 45 years old, it's not going to end, and so on. So all my job is right now is to kind of help and make you aware of kind of some of the circumstances that we all been through, that know that you're not the only ones that's hurting. Everybody else, in the country, or at least a lot of other people in the country are feeling some of the same pain as you guys are. But let's, kind of focus on what we can do as individuals to kind of change things. If that focus means you want to go and, and do a rally, they've had a couple of rallies. They had a rally in the City of Independence, which me and my wife attended along with the basketball coach and a few other members of the campus ICC, and which was great. And I, just kind of go out there and the police department, the city police put it on, and it was a great, turnout for us. And, and then my wife went to another rally about 30 minutes away in Parsons, and, it was an extremely hot day. And so I talked to my kids, we just want to do it the right way though. And I also want to talk to them about, you're on a different pedestal and so on like that. As far as an athlete, as coaches, we're on a different pedestal. We have our strong beliefs, but there's a certain way that we have to kind of go about doing it. And I think our kids respect us more when we say that and kind of go about doing that. And as far as, all our kids, majority of them have little brothers and sisters, and they all want to be protecting of those little brothers and sisters. And quite a few of them already have children. And so, at the early age. And so we want to try to teach them that, set yourself up. So I'm not saying that you're never going to experience it. I'm not saying that you're never going to be stereotyped. I'm not saying that you're never going to be pulled over just because you're driving a nice car. I'm not saying that you've never been hogtied or, choked out or, or anything else. But what I'm trying to say is all I can teach you is let's finish the race. Let's, continue to have a great season, get your education, become more aware of what's going on out there today, how things are changing, though, I think for the best, and things are changing in a different direction. And then I said, put yourself in a position where you can make change, because believe it or not, I'm not too politically, I don't like, I don't like politics too much. I'm open and honest about that. And, my wife, she talks, politics sometimes all the time, and then her family and, a lot of people out here, and it doesn't offend me to talk politics. And so I'd rather talk X's and O's or something else. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but I'm still aware of kind of what's going on. But I want my kids to be able to set themselves up, and so they can continue to make change and so on like that. So that means becoming good members of society, even though a lot of good members of society and in their towns and in their cities are still experiencing the racism. You know what I'm saying? But just continue to have growth, man, and just continue to be able to be a vocal, because we got kids that are vocal leaders on our team, and they'll speak out about certain things. But I believe there's always, there's a time and a place to do it, and you got to do it the right way. So, we'll talk to them about that, maybe answer any kind of questions, and, just learn from each other and, and trust each other. And like I tell my guys, like my door, man, you'd be surprised some of the stuff that, I hear and just experience, and just all the tragedy that goes through our team on a daily basis. And it's like, man, I had no idea. I coached down here 15 years, junior college in California. And I have, like, out of all 15 years, I've never experienced what I experienced in 1 year just being out here. Why? Maybe it's because we got kids and players from all over the country. But it's just something that it's an eye-opening experience. But I tell them all the time, man, if you got something on your mind, come in the office and, let's talk about it and so on. And, and they do. They come in, cry, and we shut the door. They come in there and they're mad, and, man, we can just talk for days with some of the stuff that my kids go through, but, they know that me and the staff are here for them. And the school does a great job too, as well. They've implemented all kind of resources to kind of help our kids out. We have, I don't know if but we have a fairly new administration, and they've done a wonderful job, and so much support for our guys nowadays. And I'm so happy because basically our kids do go through things. And, we're unfortunate. We just took a loss to one of our incoming freshmen that was coming in, Antoine Hill, out of Ohio. He was shot and killed, a week ago, and so on. So, and he was with another young man, that's coming in at Independence. And it's so sad and just tragic. And he was a great kid, not a knucklehead, nothing like that. And so, we're already set up, do a little grief counseling for some of our guys. And, so just the support like that kind of helps out. So, and I'm just sitting here thinking about, put a smile on my face about our administration, because I know they're going to be sitting there talking to they want that. They want the dialogue. And same thing with our instructors too. They don't I can just see a few of them just asking questions. They want the dialogue. They want to hear their opinion. And that's something that you don't hear about all the time at a lot of different places, but Independence is different.
Well, it kind of makes me think of a couple things, Coach. One of them is, with all of that, and we'll kind of get to this in a second, to take in all of that information from players, like heavy stuff. My wife is a therapist, so I understand the burden that it can cause on someone. Even if you want to be a helper, it can be really difficult. So I want to kind of hear how you are able to deal with that. But before we get there, I want to go back to really just this idea. Like, I've bunch of different thoughts about the race stuff. Like, one of my closest friends, when I was playing football at UC Davis, was in a car with like 3 African American guys. We got pulled over for no reason. That was like one of my first experiences as a white person of like, oh, this is different. Like, this is a different experience than the one I had growing up with. And he's now actually a senior staff member at UC Davis, and he's talked to all 25 ICA programs. And just like facilitated conversations around it. And it can be, something where we start to think, like, as a society, like a lot of the videos you see on Twitter, even, like, I think of one that went viral. It was 3 African-American men from different generations. It was like very raw and honest. They were just talking to each other like, hey, what I did is not working. We're not seeing the change that at the rate we want it. So, like, kind of passing it down to the generations. You also see a lot of headlines and videos where there's no solution given. So that's what I want to spend a second focusing on, is like, not that, like you said, like, hey, I'm not a politician. I'm not either. I'm a sports guy. I work with coaches all day, every day. How can we as coaches help be a part of the solution in what's going on? Because the reality is, sports have a lot of, white African-American interaction, and every other race, but football especially, a lot of white and African-American interaction. So how can we help facilitate conversation and be a solution in this fight? And maybe that's too lofty a question, but does anything come to mind?
We're just dealing with what you're saying, and it's hearing our kids, and and I think everything has to start with kind of relationships and with their guards, and just being able to trust individuals. And primarily you're looking at our squad, and it's basically made up of 90% Black African American. And then you look at the population of just Independence and Kansas in general, and some of the surrounding cities in the Midwest. And I think, just kind of teaching what we can do, because, in sports, if you play sports and if you coach sports, like, the team is like a family. You don't see color too much, even though everybody's like, yeah, I see color and we have to see color, but it's just like a brotherhood and so on. And so what I'm trying to get to instill, you got all these guys from everywhere, parts of the country. And, whether it's Black or Hispanic and brown or Asian or Polynesian or white, Caucasian, I think what we're trying to do in the city of Independence is to kind of get some of these kids out their comfort zone a little bit. And I think some of them are scared to get out their comfort zone, because there's a lot of good people in our town that want to reach out and help our players, but they're kind of hesitant to our players are kind of hesitant to kind of accept that help. And I see it a lot. And so we're working on kind of bridging that gap and just kind of like, I'm not saying you have to accept the help that they're giving you, but just be open-minded to learn and meet new people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Not every person out there is meant to get you just because of the color of their skin. Not every police officer out there, you know what I'm saying, is a bad guy. I got friends that are police officer. Heck, man, our police chief in our town teaches on our campus. You know what I'm saying? He teaches our kids, like our players, and so I think that right then and there is one way that I commend Independence Community College, ICC. They took a guy who's in a uniform is a threat to majority half my team. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. Half my team. And they put in a classroom with 25, mainly African-American football players, and he's teaching them criminal justice class for a couple hours a day. Now it's online, but in the past summer. And so I think that's a great way to start by bridging the gap right then and there. And he loves it, you know what I'm saying? The kids love it. And it kind of shows the connection that, man, maybe he ain't that bad of a guy. And I'm honestly saying, they look out. And it's the police department, the city police, and then there's the sheriff's department. And we have a couple of good guys on that force as well, and they look out for our guys. And I can honestly say that our guys, since I've been here, are not getting the short end of the stick. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be well represented, and they know hey, you can call Coach Harris, and if something happens or if they're getting mistreated, they have an ally. And I think that's one way we're starting here. And so now you take this police officer, okay, and his Caucasian police officer, and you put him in the classroom, and now the kids are starting to see, hey, man, this guy is talking football with us. He likes us, and he's coming to our games, and everybody's cheering him on as we walk out to the field, and all these other deputies are out there. So now that's kind of letting the kids' guards down for other people in the community. And then now they're looking up in the stands, and they're like, man, a lot of these locals are cheering us on. And so that's one way I think we're bridging the gap. And it all started through just one guy asking him if he wanted to teach some classes at ICC, and it kind of rolled from there. And so it's a great learning experience for everybody, and it's a great situation. So,
yeah, and I think it's a beautiful story. We don't get to see live sports where a lot of reconciliation and healing and distraction in a positive way can happen. I think we had a call earlier today with our company, and we were all just literally bemoaning sports not being on TV still. Like, not all of us are going to watch the English Premier League playing soccer. Like, that's just not our jam as football coaches. So we're those experiences of like the cop who teaches, who goes to the game, the maybe largely white Caucasian crowd who's cheering on the diverse football team. Like, we're missing that as a society right now, which is what makes this season so hard. Before we go on to a little bit of football, you talked about, man, my door's open. People can come talk to me. I'm here for them. And your line about hearing more in a year as a head guy at Independence than you did in terms of, tough situations and whatnot. 15 years in California stood out. How do you cope with that? Like, who do you talk to? How do you, as a coach, if other coaches are listening to this and they're like, yeah, I get that. I hear a lot of stuff going on too. Where do you go for support?
Man, I think, we lean on each other as a staff, and I think that has a great deal with it. I think you can't keep it all on your own shoulders. Like, you can't carry all the weight on your own shoulders. Like, sometimes I'll pass it on and say, hey, man, you got to go. I want to get you to go talk to Coach Donnerson, or I want you to talk to Coach Martin, or, go talk to Coach Langren or Coach Osborne or Coach McCall, one of the other coaches, and, kind of give them, because it does get overwhelming at sometimes, because you feel like, man, you get a kid that's lost 3 siblings, all the, gang violence or death. And you're just like, man, you feel so bad for this kid and this young man. And, it's like what he's been through. And then you got, so realistically you go home and, sometimes as the older you get, I kind of realize that you go home and you want to leave some of the stuff at the office. You can't, it's hard to do that a lot of times, especially in the season and especially with so many kids on campus. But, I lean on my wife and I just talk to her. She's been in education for 16 years. And I think a lot of it has to do, to tell you the truth, like I was in public education for 19 years. I was a high school teacher and coaching community college football in California. And I think, it's very similar. A lot of the kids go through a lot of tragedy. They have a lot of problems. They have a lot of issues in the inner city and so on. And so it's kind of very similar to what I'm dealing with right now. And so, you wear different hats, and all the coaches say that. And I think JUCO is one of those ones where, you're really hands-on. And, in most cases, at least here at Independence, just because, when you look at, we tell our parents, and I was just talking to a parent this other day, I said, when they're trusting you with their child and it's thousands of miles away from home in an area that they're not too familiar with or not, have questions about and so on, safety is the number one issue. And so realistically, we want our kids, we talked about this in our meeting the other day. It's called Maslow's. You remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs and so on? Have you ever heard about Maslow's hierarchy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, your kid, he ain't going to think about throwing a football, catching a football, or even practicing hard or lifting weights if some of his needs are not met on that first level of that pyramid and so on. And so, those are some essential needs. And so I think, just being an open ear and our kids being able, now don't get me wrong, they're going to get their butt chewed too at the same time, but just being able to have where they can come in, knock on a door or text me and say, hey, coach, you have a minute? And, some coaches, head coaches be like, no, I'm busy. I'm preparing for a game. Whereas for me, I'm just like, I stop what I do and, I'll take that minute. And I think shows them that you care, okay? And when you care, you can coach a kid hard. And so it's kind of all relative, but I go home and I tell my wife, or I tell, people that are close to me, some of the things that we kind of deal with every day. And it's kind of like shock. It's like an eye-opening experience. But I think it's a good thing and also bridges the gap because a lot of people are not aware of this at all, of what these kids go through. And, and just with the COVID, the virus and, everything having to be online and worrying about, man, I had kids having to work 13 hours a day and they were doing speeches on cell phone on the way home. They were pulling all over their cars after working 13 hours doing landscaping, doing a speech to an instructor. And, and it's just like, so, a lot of our instructors, they understood, but the ones that some had questions now or doubts, now they're starting to understand a little bit more of where these kids are coming from. So I think, we're bridging the gap here and, we might not even be knowing it just because all I'm doing is letting a couple people know that, hey, so-and-so, this is what happened to him, 3 of his brothers, or so-and-so's sister just passed away, or so-and-so's aunt just passed away, or this is what happened right here. He's, and so it's really just, being transparent with people. And some of the ones that basically, at the beginning had a lot of tough love for the kids, now are starting to let their guard down a little bit and starting to see that Maslow's hierarchy of needs might, need to come into play a little bit. So it's a good thing. But I think, my experience in public education, when I got done playing, I said I wanted to be a teacher. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the day I left high school, and then when I went to junior college, I still wanted to be a teacher, educator. When I finished, I wanted to be a teacher. But with that mindset, a teacher is a caring person and they're going to put that student or that player first. And that's what I try to get over to my staff. I said, that little dude over there will run through the wall for you if he knows that you care and willing to listen. And so that's our motto here.
Yeah. Availability, man. That's something that stands out from what you said. And you said it earlier too, like my door's always open. The ability to make yourself available.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal for a kid, because if they think you don't have time for them or that it's not important, then shoot, imagine if you didn't have the door open, if you didn't answer the phone, if you didn't have the conversation. And like you said, I think it's really wise too. You're not Superman. You are not Superman. You have to offload some of it to your assistant coaches. And I think that's that's massively wise and important for all head coaches to hear, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into being a head coach. Sometimes you got to line the field. Sometimes you're just, paperwork. You got to do interviews. And I think to be able to have a staff that you can trust, that you can really empower them to talk to other kids that are on your team is super important. So Jayhawk Conference champs in 2019, 2-8 to 8-2. The home of the four quarters philosophy.
Yes,
What do you think? What do you think attributed the success you had last year for your program? Like, what about it? Did you change anything from the years past? I know the whole JB thing, and Coach is hilarious, and he's got whiskey and cigars people can buy, and he's a SoCal dude. I coached at John Muir High School up in North Pasadena.
There you go.
Yeah. And that was quite an experience, but we had a bunch of dudes who were fun to coach, had a good experience. I know that you guys were from there initially, but getting back to last year, like, why was it so successful? And like, what really makes up your program? Core values, mission, the four quarters philosophy. What made it successful, and what makes up your program?
I think, we've all shared this, and this is one thing I've learned, and I learned from JB and from a long time ago, and I used to coach with him, back in Cali. And, I kind of carried it on, but I just kind of put my own little twist to it is, we're going to be recruiters first, hands down. We're going to try to have some of the best players in the country. And, and that's what we did. And that's what we tried to do even when he was here at Independence. And that changes a lot. And so, I was in a league in Cali for so long where I didn't have scholarships, and I wasn't able to get those type of kids that the Jayhawk Conference and the Mississippis and the Texas are getting in, and so on like that for so long. And when I came out here, it kind of was an eye-opening experience for me. And we're old school, we're Southern Cal guys, so we used to go down to SC practices all the time when legendary Pete Carroll was there, and man, get them here, get them to the yard. We sort it out later. We're gonna get the best, and we're gonna try to find them. And we're, like JB used to say, there's certain things I keep with me, because just like certain things I keep with me as an O-line coach. Whether I learn from Pat Rule or different kind of coaches that I got, but we're gonna turn over rocks, and we're just gonna try to find the best players in the country, and then we're gonna get them here, and we're gonna coach them up, and then that's the key. That's where I kind of put my little twist on a little bit. I don't care if the kid's bouncing back from Alabama, you still got to coach them up. You know what I'm saying? And I want my coaches to be teachers and first. And I said, and realistically, right now, when I go to hire coaches, I don't care if they coach a down of football. I've hired coaches that they haven't coached a down of football, but I believe I can teach you how to coach. And if you have a passion for it, and we can teach you to be a teacher, then you're going to be a good coach. And so I kind of took that philosophy, but no doubt about it, we're going to look for the best people. And that's what we want here at Independence. And so, but the four quarters philosophy is something I adopted when I took over the job, and I was just kind of looking and kind of seeing, and as an assistant over the years, even when you're coaching high school, you just look around and you're like, when I get my chance, this is what I'm going to do. And this is kind of what I want to be known for and everything. And no doubt about it, if you have the best players in the country, I look at it like this: NFL has the best players in the country, and there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. You get what I'm saying? And, SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, and so on. So what I want to do is I want to get the best players in the country here, and I want them basically to win every day. And I think to win every day, if you win in these four quarters while you're here at Independence, we're going to be successful on Saturday, and we're going to raise the bar. And so what I do is I raise the bar for not only my players, but for my coaches. And so, I'm OCD, ADD, and perfectionist. I'm like a perfectionist. And they used to tease me all the time, like, man, you coach the blades of grass. You know how big a blade of grass is, bro? It's tiny. But here's the thing about it. The kids want to be coached, believe it or not. And kids want discipline, believe it or not.
Yes.
And kids want to be successful, believe it or not. And so I haven't heard too many kids tell me, in my 22 years coaching experience, well, I want to be successful on the field, but I don't care about being successful in the classroom. You know what I'm saying? The kids that come to Independence know they're going to go Division I. Most of them, you know, they know they want to go Division I. And so to do that, we got to teach them that it has to be hand in hand and so on. And when they step on our campus, it's not, okay, you're going to be a student athlete. You know, you're going to be, you know what I'm saying? They're going to be a Division I player. That's what they're coming out of their mouth. I'm going to be a Division I player. But they don't understand, you would never be at Independence if you would have took care of business in the classroom, you know? And so the 4 quarters philosophy means basically every day, and we're going to evaluate you every day. And my bar is high, whether you're going to win. First thing, I want you to win the community. The community of Independence, they deserve to have a place where they can be proud, you know, a town where they can be safe. You don't have to worry about anything. And I think we're giving them that. And I like to get my guys out in the community as much as I possibly can, because you got those stereotypes. That's what we were talking about earlier, you know. And, you know, anytime you come in and, you know, 90% of your team is African-American or a different complexion that you're used to seeing, and now they're out there in the same fast food restaurant, same Walmart as you. And, you know, we want to take that perception out of their eyes and out of their minds and say, hey, man, so I have my kids do a ton of community service. And I don't want them going, when I go to sleep, I want to be able to sleep good at night, even though during the season it's kind of tough. But I don't want to get no phone call saying that your kid just was belligerent at Brahms or at McDonald's. They took candy at, you know, the convenience store. I don't want that. So we're going to win in the community. And then second thing, we're going to win in the classroom. And so, and I just told my coaches on Monday that we're going to raise the academic standard. You know, we want to achieve academic excellence, and we're going to raise our bar. And I had to evaluate myself, and we graduated 51 last year. We graduated 51 kids last year with AA. And so, but I still want to raise the bar, because I think we had a few kids that could have got done a little bit faster than what they did. Is because, you know, we kind of took our foot off the gas. And don't get me wrong, like part of the way that we're winning in the classroom has a little bit to do with our coaching staff, because we make them go to class and we hold them accountable. But we probably got the best academic coordinator, hands down, in JUCO football. And I'll say it in front of anybody. When she leaves, I'm out. I'm gone. I'll go back to high school. You know what I'm saying? Her name's Sonia Conley. And the thing about it is, you didn't get to see her too much on Last Chance U, because, you know, they had Brittany Wagner, you know, do her thing in season 1 and 2. But we graduated 51 in this past year, 36 in December. And then we didn't get this chance to see, I believe it was 15 or 16. And this past May, but, you know, they had a virtual graduation. She's the main reason. So we, of course, make sure the kids are going to class and doing what they're supposed to do. But there's more than that, man. A lot of people make their kids go to class, but we want them to act right in class. We want them to be, you know, model students. We want our instructors to like walking in the classroom and not like, oh man, here we go again. Like that. And, you know, and it's been like that before. So we're trying to change that. And then the next one is the weight room. You know, I'm old school. You know, I believe the weight room wins football games. The off season wins football games. I'm big on, you know, infatuation. You know, I tell my guys, and they buy into it. They send me pictures all the time. And like, I want you to look like a football player. I want you to get off the bus, and I want the other team coaches and the fans to be like, dang, what have they been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so we got an old school strength coach, but we bring it to the table every day. Coach Donaldson, he was long time. Compton Dominguez, you know, Coach Richard Sherman and all those guys. And man, and like, so he was been our strength coach for a while, and I just let him do his thing. And I just tell him, I said, Coach, I want our dudes stronger than any other team in the conference, and I want our dudes to look better than anybody else in the conference. I said, when they line up against the guy across from them, I want the guy across from them back in their mind thinking like, damn, how much is this guy squatted? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on with him? So the weight room, we're going to win the weight room every day. Every day we live, we're going to win the weight room. And so realistically, and our guys know, if we don't win, we're going to start over again. We're going to win either in the morning, or we're going to win in the afternoon, or we're going to win at 12 o'clock at night. We're going to win no matter what. So, and then the last one, you know, is on the field. And I think, you know, some guys, like, you have those players with the mentality, I want to come out and play on Saturday. They don't want to do anything Monday through Friday or they want to play, or if you're a high school coach, they want to play on Friday. They don't want to do anything Monday through Thursday. Well, here at DreamU, it doesn't go that way. When we're out there, and we're not out there forever. I'm like, I've kind of adapted over the years, just kind of learning. Plus, I'm getting older, and my freaking back and my damn hurts and so on. So I can't be out there for. Now you hear stories of Bill Snyder at Kansas State right down the street. They'd be out there for 3.5-hour practices. I'm like, man, I can't do that. So we're going to be out there, and we're going to get what we have to get in 2 hours, hour and 50 minutes, wherever we're out there. But those hour and 50 minutes and 2 hours, we're going to do what we're supposed to do. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to win. And so if you do what you're supposed to do, Sunday through Friday, Saturday, you should get that W. And so that's our 4-quarter philosophy right there on a daily basis, and we live by it. And so when our kids have to adopt it, and we, sometimes it takes us just to kind of hammer it into their head, like, okay, it's not going to be 3 out of 4. Okay, where you're not going to basically do a good job in the community, the weight room, and on the field, but you're going to be a turd in the classroom, and you're going to get F's. Now, do we have kids that struggle? Yeah, we do. Everybody's not perfect, but we're going to try our best to win in the classroom. And so, and we have different incentives for that. And, but there it is right there in the nutshell, man. We want to go 4 for 4 on a daily basis.
Hey, man, a lot of programs are 3 for 4. A lot of programs are, you hear all about school. Oh, get your academics done. And like you said, it could be a speech at the end of practice. Hey, go home and do your homework. Or it could be, sitting outside peeking in the classroom to make sure they're there. But that's just presence. That's not behavior. And so to hear what you guys are doing behavior wise, and then of course the field, that's a given. I think the weight room is a given for a lot of programs, not every program, but the community is what stands out, because I think that's a missing piece in a lot of programs across the country. You're all about school. You're all about getting stronger and winning on Friday or Saturday. And it makes sense because you guys are, again, you're in a unique community. It isn't LA. Like, it's a way different place. And I went to the national championship game 2 years ago at Pittsburgh State. I drove through Kansas. Yeah. I've seen it. I've been on the ground. Yes, it ain't Pasadena. It's a different place, man. And you are really being intentional about your kids in the community, which again, it can be talk for a lot of coaches, but the fact that they're doing community service and meeting the people so that and it goes back to, even like you were saying, breaking down walls and stereotypes and just this idea that, oh, these kids aren't from here, they're just coming here to play football. But when you see a kid passing out a bottle of water, or like you said, hanging out at a Walmart and being respectful and saying hi and looking you in the eyes and shaking your hand, like, that makes a big difference. So that's cool to hear, man. I'm glad you shared that. I'm sure that'll help a lot of coaches. And I think we got tons of good stuff. I appreciate you joining. I know that, like you said, you get hit up by a lot of people now, and I'm sure your life is way different, but it sounds like you're doing a lot of cool stuff for the community, for your kids. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're getting some rest. And I like that you're going out to dinner with the wife. That's a good sign. Get it in while you can before the season starts, man.
Got to, man. She's like, man, I got to give a shout out to her because she's like the rock. You know what I'm saying? They call her boss lady here, and she does such a great job. Not only she feeds my coaches and stuff right now.
I saw that, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, she feeds coaches, and she's taking up some volunteer work, and she gets the kids on Sundays. She goes over to AWOL, which is the dog. I call it the old school dog pound, but I guess it's the Humane Society. And my players go out and walk the dogs, for about an hour, So, it's a great thing. And then when you get the texts from the people in the community, and they say, hey, man, I look forward to seeing, the pictures of your players walking the dogs, and just to kind of see. And I'm telling you right now, that's some of the best therapy, you can kind of get. You think I'm playing like, and people laugh when I tell them that. You take a kid inner city, tough as you want him to be, seeing it, he's seen more than all of us, and you take him to, the Humane Society, and you give him this little dog to go out there and walk. And the first day when he goes in there and he walks in, he's like, Coach, these dogs are in jail. They're like, they're in jail. And I said, hey, man, well, they get to get a furlough for about an hour. Go walk them out there, and, you see like them out there chasing and playing with those dogs, man, it brings something to you inside. And so, hats off to her, and she does a good job. So we usually take about 10 or 12 kids over there on Sunday, and they walk the dogs on at the.
Hey man, Netflix recommendation, which you obviously know Netflix. There's a series it's just called Dogs.
Dogs?
It's just called Dogs. And last night, my wife and I threw it on. Like I said, she's 3 weeks away. She's got the insomnia hard right now. So we're up late. We're cruising through Netflix. I'm like, hey, I'm going to interview the indie guy tomorrow. You think we should watch another episode of Last Chance U? She's like, no, we've seen that like 3 times. Let's watch something about dogs. It's a feel good. Well, it's amazing, dude. Dogs are amazing for one, but that connection between humans and dogs, and they're in the episode we watched, it was like highlighting kids with disabilities and how they have service dogs come alongside them. And we're both like, it's midnight. She's got the pregnancy insomnia, and we're on the couch like boo-hooing about dogs somehow. So it's a powerful thing, man. Kudos to your wife and your kids for doing that.
But hey, I do want to get back with you, man, and because I kind of feel bad though, because I want to, I can show you a couple, later on if we ever want to do it again. Me and the O-line,
let's do it.
Myself, and we talk about some zone stuff, or we talk about RPO stuff. You want to, whatever you want to do. I don't mind. I love talking football and everything. It's just, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's been a busy day, and hey, you already know what I said about the recruiting, and it.
Hey, go get the Jimmys and Joes, man. I know it's important.
There it is, right there.
Hey, thanks for joining, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, man.